Hello everyone, Logan here once again with another game coming to Kickstarter for you to preview with us. It's called Goblivion. It's by Goblivion Games. Excuse the the sheet. The prototype box kind of fell apart in the packaging. But I've got this part of it. Remember, this game you're going to be looking at is a prototype. All the pieces are not indicative of the final game. Anything can change during the Kickstarter, as well as the box. But this is the front box right here. We've got it for you, and all the pieces of the game we're going to be taking a look at. It's a castle defense style deck builder game for solo players, and it's also got a co-op option if you'd like to have somebody play with you. Sometimes play by yourself. That's good. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get it on the table, take a look at it. It's called Goblivion. So the first cards we're going to look at are the King and Queen cards. There's two of each. There's two Kings and two Queens cards in Goblivion, and you choose which ones you want to play. If you're playing solo, you choose one. If you're playing co-op, each one of you chooses either a King or a Queen to play. We're going to show all four of them like that. Let's get them within range. You can't see on the camera. So basically how they're set up is they have your resource number here in the upper left hand corner is how many resources you're going to start out the game with. You can see this King has 21, this one has 18, this Queen has 15, this one has 18. It basically dictates how many you start out with, and you're going to be able to spend for different things. In the green box right here, it tells you the name of the King or Queen and also which bodyguard you start out with, because you'll have a bodyguard card that you're going to be able to, that either during the training phase or during combat phase, you'll be able to switch your bodyguard out with one of the other cards that's in there. We'll go over those in a minute. And it also has a red box right here that it tells you if you want to play with them, if you want a higher difficulty, you can actually play where you have a penalty to the different cards you buy. Like you see this one on Queen Margaret the Sweet right here. Said if you train a mercenary or a mechanical guardian, you lose 2 resources. So you could play on that. It makes the game a little bit more difficult. If you're playing just a simple game, you want to play on easy, you ignore the red effect, you just go with the green bodyguard effect. If you want to play in a medium game, you use both of them, the red and the green. And if you want to play on a hard game, you go ahead and ignore the green bodyguard part and you just play with the red part. And here we have one of the boss monsters for the game. And you can tell it's got a bunch of different abilities on them and different numbers. But it basically signifies that you use this column right here if you're playing a solo game. And you use this column right here if you're playing a co-op game with somebody. And the number in the red banner is basically the toughness that you have to beat the boss with. And down here it shows the number of cards you're going to draw from your castle deck whenever you're fighting the monster. And remember that for co-op, this is how many cards you're going to draw each. 4. So in solo, you're going to draw 7 cards. And it has a little boss ability over here. It says for each action used, and it shows the little exhausting symbol where you turn it sideways, you lose a resource. So whenever you use an action on something, you lose a resource. So there's 6 different kinds of monsters with different abilities and stuff. For a simple game, you shuffle all these together and you deal out 3 of them face down. 1, 2, 3, and those are the use it. For a medium game, you use 4. For a tough game, you use 5, and you'll put those on the player board or on the game board in the appropriate spot. And this brings us to the monster cards, or the goblin cards, that you'll be fighting during the game. They'll be coming out, marching slowly towards your castle, and then you'll have to do combat with them. They're divided first into 2 different stacks. You have the ones over here that have 1 sword underneath their red banner, because they're a little bit easier. And then you have the ones over here with the 2 swords underneath their toughness banner right there. And they're laid out basically half and half, because the other half, the bottom half of the cards, are objects. So if you defeat this goblin, you'll be able to take it flip it around and add it to your castle deck. Well, first it'll go into your hospital, and then it'll eventually come up in your castle deck when you reshuffle. Then you see they're laid out where they have the number of cards that you will draw during combat when you encounter it. And they have an ability that'll take effects before you can play abilities. Like you see the Magician Goblin over here, you'll lose 2 resources. Over here, for the Trollolol, you will destroy the next card of the castle. So you take that next card, and it would be removed from the game. And then if we beat the Magician Goblin, when we added it, it would flip upside down. It would count nothing towards our skills that we're trying to buy cards with and everything. But it counts as an item, because this is the item symbol right here, a little bag with a cog on it. And it has an ability when it comes up that we can tap it, or exhaust it, and copy one other exhaust action. This one right here, the Trollolol, has a giant knife, which counts as 4 during either combat or when we're trying to buy cards from our village. And it counts as it's a giant knife, but it doesn't have any extra special abilities. Here's the castle deck. Well, the cards in the castle deck. So you can see just a couple examples. There's 2 different kinds in there. There are items, which are, as I said, in the monsters. There are a bag with the cog symbol right there. And then there are peasants, which are signified by a little kind of frightened peasant symbol right there in the upper right-hand corner. They have their skill number that they use for combat or fighting. This little fist right here shows that they are just basic cards. They haven't been upgraded to any kind of combat card. And they've got the name, like this one's a sword, that one's a farmer, this guy down here is a lumberjack. And these cards range, the numbers range anywhere from a -2 to a +2 in the starting deck. And some of them have abilities. These 2 don't have any abilities, but if they did, they would show up right here. Let's see if we can find one like that. There we go. You see the baker right there. He's got an exhaust ability, where you would turn it sideways to gain 1 resource. So these are going to come up during the game, and as you'll see in the gameplay, and they're used, total up the numbers to be able to buy cards. They call them in the rules. They call them golden cards. These are referred to as blue cards or castle cards. So let's go ahead and get to the golden cards. And these cards are the ones you're going to be able to buy during your turn, during the training phase of the game. So these top 4 right here, you can see they all have 1 sword next to their banner. These 4 are going to be accessible to you to buy at the beginning of the game, the 4 right here. You won't be able to buy these ones down here, these 4 with the double swords right there, until after you finished, or after you win your first combat of the game. These will become accessible to you. So they're laid out just like the blue cards, or the castle cards, where they have their little skill points, or their buying points in the banners right here. You can see right here it's a special one, because depending on how many soldiers you flip out for the turn determines how many banner points they're worth. And they got their little ability boxes right here for whenever they come up during your turn if you flip them out. But then they got these little itty bitty boxes here, and these basically tell you how to buy them. So during your turn, the training phase, you will put a training token on one of these 4 cards, and then you will follow the instructions in the box, where you have to turn over 4 castle cards. Let's just say I'm trying to get a headsman here. I would turn over 4 castle cards, and from those castle cards, I would total up all the skill points that I had to try to get this center number. That's my target number right here, trying to get 2. And so while those castle cards are out, if any of them have any exhaust abilities that I could use to either gain resources or to get more of the banner numbers, to increase it, I can go ahead and do those before trying to pay, basically, to buy this card. Now, if I can't reach these with any of my 4 cards that I've turned out, I can always pay the difference if I really want this card. I can pay the difference with resources. Let's say I turned out, I turned out 4 cards, and they just turned out to be 4 of the regular farmers, which count as 0. But I really want that headsman card. I could pay 2 resources, since all 4 of my guys are 0, and the difference would be 2. I could pay 2 resources to add this to my hospital, which is basically your discard pile, your hospital. And once I do, I have to sacrifice and or remove from the game a peasant with the regular peasant symbol there. So I could take one of my 0 guys that is out on the board from the castle and remove him from the game, basically training and upgrading him to the headsman card for all intents and purposes in the game. These ones down here are a little more beefier. That's why you only get them after you defeat your first combat. But they have 2 items. One of them is a catapult, and one of them is a mechanical guardian. Now you are able, if you choose one of the queens, she actually gets a mechanical guardian as her bodyguard. And the bodyguards are actually some of these golden cards right here. And they will start with your king or queen in play. It's not really in play. It's next to your king or queen card, and then you could swap it with a card in play. But then that card that was already in play would become your new bodyguard, and your old bodyguard would come out and be counted towards points, and then would go to the hospital, as with all other cards at the end of the turn, which you'll see in the gameplay. We're going to go through the tokens right now, and then we'll get to the setup and gameplay. So here are the tokens that you'll be using during the game. These ones right here, you only use if you're using the disadvantages on the king and queen card. You put these on top of one of the gold cards that grants disadvantage for using that king or queen. As I was showing you when I was explaining the cards, you'll get -2. So there's 2 of these in case you're playing co-op, so each one of you have a disadvantage if you're playing at that level. Otherwise, they're not used in the game. These right here are, as you can see, they recognize from the monster cards. These are used on the monster cards if you don't defeat one of the goblins in battle. And so it'll save it over for the next turn. It'll get a +1 token on it. Now, each monster can only have 1 token on it at a time. So, and the +1 ones only go on the ones with 1 sword, as you can see the sword there. And these are double-sided, so you got the 2 there, and it has the 2 sword. Because if you don't defeat one of the 2 sword goblins during combat and it stays over to the next turn, it'll get one of the +2 ones. And you can see it right there because it's got the 2 swords there. So there are those. Then you have your resource tokens, which are obvious. They come in denominations of 1 and 3, and you can see they're double-sided. The 1's got the 3 on the side of it, and the 3's got the 1 on the side of it. So there's a bunch of those right there, and you're limited to as many that come with the game. So if you are sitting there gaining a lot of tokens and there's none left in the pile, you don't get those extra resources. And if any time during the game you run out of resources, you have 0, you lose the game. That's basically how it happens. Now these right here are skill tokens. These are also double-sided. These are the banners that you can actually you can get to help you out with combat or with buying things. The blue and the gold cards, some of them have exhaust abilities that actually give you like +2 for that turn, and then it'll go away at the end of that phase. So you only get it and it goes on the card. It lasts until that card goes to the hospital. Real quick before we get to the player board, I forgot about one other token, and it is the training token that I talked about when I was going through the gold cards. This is the training token you would place on the card that you're designating that you want to buy for that turn. It's just as a reminder, and then once you buy the card, it comes off, and then at the beginning of the next turn, you'll place it on a different card. So I forgot to mention that one during the tokens. But here's the player board. This is where you'll place your blue castle cards at the beginning of the game in the stack here. And this is the hospital, which is basically your discards where stuff goes. You've got a little turn summary right here. It tells you your turn order. First, it's the training phase where you're training any of your guys. And then the enemy will push, and we'll go over that whenever we get to the enemy board, the main board of the game. And then there's combat if any combat happens. And you also see right here, it says a little ability that when the castle is empty, so whenever you run out of cards and you have to draw one, the enemy pushes. And once again, we'll go over that when I get to the board, what that means. And then during the boss fight, if this turn it up empty, since there won't be any other enemies to push, you'll get -2 resources. Here's a spot right here where you'll keep your resources if you're playing your solo game. If you're playing a co-op, you'll keep your resources separated. And then you got a little spot up here. You can put your king, queen card right there, and then your bodyguard card right there if you're playing solo. Obviously, if you're playing co-op, you won't be able to put them, since each one of you will have one each. You'll have to keep it separate. You put this in the middle because you'll be using the decks that way, and then use the sides as your play area. Otherwise, whenever you're playing solo, you can just keep this off to the side with the enemy player board right here, which we're going to get to. And speaking of the enemy player board, here it is. It's a nice size board right here. This is where you'll place your monsters, or your boss monster, right here. And you can see it has numbers on there designating if you're playing easy, you want 3 of them. If you're playing medium, you want 4. If you're playing hard, you'll put 5 here. And you place those face down, and they'll come out later. Now, in this square right here is where your goblin decks are going to start out. And you can see they've got the designations of how many cards each you need to make up the deck. If you're playing solo, you'll put 7 face down of the 2-sword zombies, or sorry, not zombies, goblins. I play way too many zombie games. You'll go ahead and shuffle them up real quick, and then put 7 down there, face down, and then you'll take the single sword goblins, shuffle them up, and place 8 on top of that, and that'll make your deck of 15 goblins for the game. And if you're playing co-op, it's got the numbers right there, 6 of the 2 swords and 7 of the 1 swords on top of it. Now, during the game, as you saw on the player board, it says that the enemy pushes. When that happens, you'll take the top card from the monster deck, and you'll go ahead and you'll move it out to the next spot. And then on the next turn, when the enemy pushes, this card will move here, and one will move from the deck this way. And it's just like a castle defense game where stuff moves. Now, whenever a goblin reaches here, where the shield symbol is with the 2 swords, that's when you'll have combat. So after it pushes and one comes here, you will turn over that goblin, see how many cards you need to draw from the castle to combat that goblin, draw them, and then total up your points and try to defeat the goblins there. If you do, he gets flipped around and added to your hospital discard pile. If not, he stays in play, and he will get one of those +1 red banner tokens on him, and then you'll have to combat him the next turn. And now, if stuff continues to push, it'll come out this way, and you can have 3 at the castle doors. This is basically your castle. Here's why you place your player board down here in the corner. So you can have up to 3. And if anything pushes after that, whatever goblin is here that's face down, whenever it's pushed, it basically gets removed from the game. It doesn't go into a discard pile, doesn't anything, it gets removed from the game, thereby potentially getting rid of an important item that could help you out in the game. So you kind of want to take care of the goblins as they're coming up and beat them every turn so you don't lose any. Whenever all the cards have come out and you've either beat them or they get down there, then will be when the boss comes out. And we'll show you that during the gameplay. Okay, so we got Goblivion all set up. We've got our 8 different stacks of the golden cards over here. Our first 4 that we have access at the beginning of the game, the Archer, Soldier, Builder, and Headsman down here, and then the other 4 that'll be accessible after we win our first battle up there, Berserker, Blacksmith, Catapult, and Mechanical Guardian. I have gone ahead and I've chosen the King Loco the Brute. He starts out with 21 resources, which I already have over there, and he'll start out with a soldier as a bodyguard. So we'll go ahead and take one of these soldier cards right here and put it in the bodyguard slot right there. I got my tokens all set up, got my board. I'm playing on easy, so I've only got 3 bosses there, and I've already got the monster deck set up with the appropriate number of goblins right there. We've got the blue deck of guys right here already shuffled, and now it's 38 cards, but since I'm playing solo, I only get to use 19 of those. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and we go ahead and set those right there in the castle spot here. And I've got the hospital spot there. These other ones we will set off over to the side because we're not going to need those. Got my token here, so at the beginning of the game, I put the token on the card that I want to try to buy. I'm thinking I'm going to go for a soldier first. So I'll put it there and go ahead and perform the action. So I'm going to flip out 3 cards from the castle. 1, 2, and 3. Let's see, and my target number is 2 that I'm trying to reach on the on skills there. So I can use, now that I've got them flipped out, I can use any abilities on there to try to achieve that number to be able to get the soldier. So let's see, we got the adventurer here, says I can exhaust him to send another card to the hospital, then gain a token, a +2 token. I get the alchemist right here, so I can tap it to send any other card to the hospital, and then I get to draw a card. And then this pyromancer is a -1, so I kind of want to get that out of there. I'm going to go ahead and exhaust my adventure right here to send this card to the hospital, which is basically discards, and I'll get a +2 token. So put it on the adventure right there. I see, and then I'm not going to do this one because the only other card I have is that one. I'd lose the token, even though I get to draw a card. So now we go ahead, since I'm done using card abilities, go ahead and count up. I got 0, 0, and then +2, so I've got 2. So I actually get to get this card right here. Since I claim it, I have to go ahead and remove a peasant from the game. This one's pretty handy, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the alchemist from the game. And then this card goes into the hospital right there. Any cards I have in play go to the hospital, and the tokens that use it goes back into the stack there. So that's my training phase. Now it goes to the enemy pushes, so that one card will come out and start advancing towards the castle doors. So let's go ahead. Now we don't have any combat since I don't have any goblins here at the castle doors yet, so I don't have to worry about the combat phase. Next one, let's see. I want to go. I'll try to get an archer this time. That's basically the same thing I have to do to try to grab an archer. 3 cards, and then my target number is a 2. So let's go ahead and grab 3 more cards. I've got a village hero that's worth 2, a farmer that's 0, and then another farmer that's 0. I can, for this one right here, the village hero, I can exhaust him. I spend a resource, but then he becomes a soldier, which could actually come in handy, but I think it's a little too early for that right now. But I do have, if I total them up, 2, 0, 0. So I do have 2 skills, so I do get one of these archers right here. And then I'll have to get rid of one of the peasants. I'll choose to get rid of a farmer this time. He's 0, doesn't have any abilities. So train him. He goes to the hospital, and these ones all go to the hospital also. And then the enemy pushes. So it'll move down. This one will move here, and still no combat. I like the ability on the soldier. I'm going to try to get another soldier to add. So let's go ahead and flip out 3 more cards. I've got a -1 pyromaniac, a 0 farmer, and another 0 farmer. So in this case, I can stop training if I want to. I can say, okay, I'm not going to be able to get that target number of 2. Or I could spend the difference with my resource tokens that I have, which is what I think I'm going to do, because I really want that soldier to add to my deck. So let's see, since I'm at a -1 right now, I need a total of 3 resources to be able to reach that target number of 2. So let's go ahead. I'll get rid of one of my 3 resource tokens to be able to add him to my deck. I have to give up a guy, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to actually get rid of this -1 pyromaniac out of there. Go ahead, remove him from the game. Add him there, and these farmers. Go ahead and go to my hospital also. And then I'll push, or the enemies will push, coming closer and closer to the gates. So I know next turn I will have a combat. Well, let's go ahead and see. So beginning of the turn, this one, I'm going to go ahead and try to add a builder to this time. So builder, I have to turn out 4 cards, and my target number is still 2. So let's go ahead. We got a lumberjack that's worth 1. We got a gentleman that's worth 2. And another lumberjack worth 1. So Yeah, then no special abilities, so nothing to be able to do. Total up my numbers, which is 4, which more than meets the target number of 2 for my builder right here. And but unfortunately, I have to get rid of one of these positive number guys. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of one of the lumberjacks, remove it from the game. Put the builder there, and these guys all go to my discards also. So now let's see. We come to the enemy pushes. It'll come down this way. So first they all push like this. Let's get these cards out here. And then we will do combat. So during combat, we have to flip over whoever is not already revealed. So go ahead and reveal him. It is a magician goblin. So he tells me I need to draw 3 cards, and I'm trying to beat him with a number 4. But he does have an ability. After I draw these 3 cards out, I will have to lose 2 resources. So let's go ahead and draw these 3 cards from my castle deck. Right there. All right. So I do have to lose 2 resources. So I can take one of my 3s and turn it into a 1 to keep track of it, right, like there. But then I can use his ability before we do any kind of damage for combat. So I'll tap him to gain a resource. Right there. And then we'll go ahead and look at combat. I have 1 plus 0 plus 0, so that's only 1 for combat. I need 4. So the difference I have to pay in resources. So the difference is 3. So I'll have to get rid of one of my 3 resources since I lost the combat. And then since I did not beat him, he will get, and he's one of the basic 1-sword goblins. I put a +1 banner on him because he'll be tougher next turn. All these guys here go to the hospital, and it goes back to the beginning of my turn. Let's see, I'm having some really good luck doing these. I'm going to go ahead and try to get one of these headsmen. That way I'll have one of at least each of those in there. So I'll put the token there. That's my choice for training this turn. Go ahead and turn out 4 cards. So I've got a baker. 0 guy, 0 guy. Oh, it looks like I've almost run out. I've run out of cards in my castle. So whenever this happens, when the castle is empty, the enemy pushes. So the enemy is going to push 1 like this. And then whenever I have to draw, I'll be able to reshuffle. So we'll go ahead and look at any of the abilities I want to use. Let's go ahead and I can exhaust that guy to gain 1 resource. And then total up, because I'm still trying to get this target number of 2, which I'm not able. All these guys are 0s. So to be able to get that, I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 resources to make up the difference. 1 and 2. Go ahead and makes up the difference right there. I will have to get rid of one of these guys. Let's go ahead and remove one of those 0 guys. Add him to my hospital right there. And then that's training phase is over. The enemy is going to push. And remember, we could have 3 enemies at the gates or doors of the castle at a time. And then we get to combat. We have to turn out 3 cards for this first goblin. It's already been revealed. We don't have to do their little action there because we already did it when he was first revealed. But turn over 3 cards. Oh, I don't have any, so we have to reshuffle our hospital to make a new castle deck. So we'll go ahead and reshuffle these real quick. Quick side shuffle. Shuffle like that way. And we will turn out 3 cards for that goblin right there. Let's see. We had a hunter who's worth 1, and I can exhaust him for a resource. I got another baker that's 0, and then a farmer that's 0. Okay, we turn over this goblin. See what effects I draw 4 cards, and I have to send my strongest peasant to the hospital. Ooh, okay, so 4 more cards. 1, 2, and move this token out of the way real quick. 3 and 4, but I have to send my strongest peasant to the hospital, which is the hunter. He is going to have to go to the hospital. Move these all over this way. And then we'll reveal this last goblin here. Who's the archer goblin? He's only defense is 2, but he's worth or it makes me turn out 2 cards. So 1 and 2. All right. So let's see what we can do for any abilities before we actually fight combat. I'm going to go ahead and tap this baker right here to go ahead and gain a resource. And then I'm going to go ahead and use this village hero right here. I can exhaust him to and lose a resource, and then he becomes a soldier. So let's go ahead and do that. So you go ahead and exhaust him, pay a resource, and then he is going to become a soldier. So I take my last remaining soldier and go ahead and put him into play right there. And he gets removed from the game. And I'm still, if I look at my numbers, I'm still going to lose. This soldier is only worth 2. But this pyromaniac makes me lose 1 of my skill for this. So I'm at a 1 right now. And I have a total of 5, 8, 9, 10 total for this combat. I'm actually going to choose to bring in my bodyguard. I have to switch him out with another card. So I'm going to get rid of this negative right here. I'm going to go ahead and switch him out with the pyromaniac. I'm going to make the pyromaniac be my new bodyguard right there. And now, since I have 2 soldiers in play, they each count as 3 according to their ability right there. So now that gives me actually a total of 6 for my combat. 3 from this guy and 3 from this guy. It's still not enough to beat the 10 to win the combat, and I'll have to pay the difference, but I will be able to do some damage to these goblins on the board. So it's 10 minus the 6 is 4, so I've got to pay the difference in resources. There's a 3, and there's a 1 right there. But I have 6 total to do to the goblins up here. I think since this has already got a plus on it, and whoever's left over is going to get another plus banner, I'm going to go ahead and use these 2 over here. This 6 to take out this 3 and this 2 over here for a total of 5, and the 1 that's left over will just expire. So these guys will be defeated, and they will go into my hospital as guys. This one is a pair of panties. It's an item, but this one right here is Maggie the cow, and I can exhaust it to gain 2 resources. So since I beat these 2, they go into my hospital. All of these guys here will all go into my hospital. And that's it for combat, and we start with training again. Now, I did not win this combat, even though I was able to take out some guys, so I still don't have access to these 4 cards right here. So let me try to take out, I'm going to try to acquire this archer right here. So 3 cards from the castle, 1, 2, and 3. Let's see, my target number is 2. I've only got 1. Let's go ahead and exhaust him to gain 2 resources first. Let's see, I'll take, 2 ones. I'll make some change. 1, 2 resources right there. And since I have to pay the difference, I've only got 1. So I'm going to pay the 1 difference to acquire him. So I'll pay the 1. I'll be able to acquire the archer. I have to get rid of a guy still, so I'm going to get rid of one of these 0 farmers that keep popping up. It goes into my hospital. These guys will go into my hospital also, and then the enemies are going to push. And then we'll do combat. This goblin makes me turn out 3 cards. It's one of those soldiers. Oh, another one of those other soldiers. Add 3 there, and we'll have to reveal this one. He's got 3 attack, but he makes me turn out 2 cards. Let's see, 1 and 2. All right, then we get to use any kind of abilities. I can actually exhaust this to destroy a card in play, and then gain a +2 token. Well, let's see how much I have total right here. These soldiers are worth 6 each. So that's, or 3 each, I'm sorry, so total of 6. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I'm going up against 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've actually, I don't want to do that. I don't want to destroy cards. So all these are pluses. If I had a 0 farmer in there, I'd think about destroying it, or like that pyromaniac that's -1. Actually, that could be an option right now. Let's go ahead and switch out bodyguards. Let's bring that pyromaniac back in. Let's give me a lumberjack as a bodyguard. I've got 6, 7, 8, 9, and then minus that. Let's go ahead and exhaust him to destroy this pyromaniac and give him a +2 token. So that gets rid of my negative card. And we total up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which is enough to win combat. And so both of these goblins get destroyed and added to my hospital. So let's see, this Toxic Blade right here, even though it's a 0, it has an exhaust ability. I lose a resource, but then I get a +3 in tokens. And this Magic Hat right here is worth 0, but I can exhaust it, and I can copy one exhaust action from another card. Actually comes in pretty handy. I'll lose that token. These will all go to the hospital. And then it goes back to my training phase again. It keeps going this way until you get to the bosses, and you basically do combat the exact same way with bosses. Although bosses don't push, you just fight them. So let's go ahead and get to the review. So as you can see from Goblivion, it's a great concept. It's a really good idea. I like it. I like most deck builders, though. I do feel that it is a little unbalanced, especially with with turning out 19 cards of the 38 castle cards for the deck. You have a chance of getting a lot of 0 cards. I looked through the deck and I broke it down. There's 15 just straight 0 skill cards in there, and then 3 0 cards that are also just for other guys that have abilities. So it's like 18 cards. Almost half the deck are just 0s, and the other 20 cards are split. 10 of them are pluses and 10 of them are minuses. And out of the 10 that are pluses, only 8 of them are 1s, and then 2 are 2s. And then the 10 that are minuses, 8 of them are -1s and 2 are -2s. It just, at the beginning of the game, it just feels really, really unbalanced. You take the 38 cards. I tried splitting them evenly. When playing through, just get an even split of 0s and minuses and 2s. And I tried it randomly shuffling and stuff. My nose is bothering me. Sorry, allergies. And it still felt unbalanced. We played with me and Gothy, played a couple games, and it's still we haven't been able to complete a whole game or get to the bosses, even on the basic easy level. It just feels like the base deck is just really unbalanced. Maybe they need to double check the numbers, run them again before bringing it to Kickstarter. But it's a great concept. It's a great game on the deck building genre. Everyone's a little bit different, so I like the concept of being able to buy the stuff, putting there, drawing the cards, seeing exactly what you can get. You're not just sitting there with the same hand each turn. You turn them out to buy stuff, and then you turn them out to fight the goblins. I just wish, like I said, it was a little more balanced. I don't feel like you get as many in your deck as quickly as you can. To be able to fight those monsters, the goblins, they just keep piling up, and then you're behind, your resources are gone, and you're dead. But go ahead and check it out on Kickstarter. Maybe the creators will take another look at it beforehand or during the Kickstarter. It's a great game so far. It's good, really good artwork, and I really like it, even with as unbalanced as it is. So go ahead and check it out on Kickstarter. It's called Goblivion. By Goblivion Games. Make sure you like our page, subscribe, hit us up over on Facebook, check out our Twitter, check out our Instagram, check out Goldilocks. Hey, how's it going? Anyway, and also check out our sponsors. They're down there in the description below, and I'll update the description with the Kickstarter whenever it goes live. I'm Logan for Logan Chops Reviews. We'll see you next time.